going?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. What's your name?
Anna, and I'm 32.
How can I help, Anna?
How would you like clearing my name from a smear campaign from my ex-fiance?
Oh, wow. Okay. Describe this smear campaign. To like what level are you being smeared?
It is pretty bad. So I found out he was cheating on me in a really gross way, in my opinion, about 2 months ago. And he has told all of his friends and family that I made it all up because I'm bipolar, which I'm not. So they've all completely dropped me.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
And this is your ex-fiance.
Yeah. We're supposed to get married in July.
Okay. Well, I am very sorry to hear that. When did you find out about all this?
Late February.
Okay. So you're still very much hurting, probably not. Are you even on the path to healing? Or are you still just in the hurting stage?
I am. I feel a little bit better about everything. I am really glad I found out before we got married because that makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. How'd you find out?
I was actually making our wedding invitations, and he had signed on to his Google Drive on my computer so I could access the photos that we took in the UK last summer. And I came across a screen recording. So then I started looking for more and found a lot more.
A screen recording of what?
It was his college roommate and his wife engaged in intercourse.
Oh, he had a video of his college roommate and his college roommate's wife having sex?
Yes,
Okay.
in a lot of different ways. So they would just send him they would basically perform for him and he would send messages back.
Oh my God. And then when you dug more, what else did you find?
That they had all slept together like 5 days before we met.
Okay.
So it's been an ongoing type of relationship. Yeah.
Do you know if he physically cheated?
He says he didn't.
Okay. But what do you believe?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you find anything else?
There have been other things in the past that I kind of let go, but everything that I've ever found out is from me finding out.
Mhm.
He's not offered up anything.
So when you caught him with these videos, did he admit to any of that? Or like what was his explanation when
He did. Yeah.
what'd he
Yeah.
say?
He told me about how they slept together before we met, but he lied about the timeline. He said it was like months before we met, but it was actually like a few days before we did,
Uh-huh.
which that doesn't matter. It's before we met, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But then he did admit to sending videos back to them and receiving videos from each of them separately, which he has then since taken back. So he said that that never happened now. And that's basically it. So he
Okay.
admitted more the night of before I ended things than he is now.
Okay. Wow. So you confronted him, he admitted to some stuff, and then what happened after that?
I called his sister the next day. I was really close with all of his family. I spent a lot of time with all of them
Mhm.
because he wouldn't leave me alone. He just kept kind of crying and being sad and, trying to guilt me into moving forward. And I needed space to think about it. And so I called his sister, and she was kind of like, I gave her bare minimum details, but she said I could come stay with her. And I told him, hey, I'm going to go stay with your sister, or you need to go stay with your mom. And so those are your two options. So then he left to go stay with his mom.
Okay. And did you communicate with his sister much more after that?
I was, but as soon as he got back, it started getting really weird communication from his whole family. And so I was kind of wondering what was going on and what he had actually told them. And so he came back to figure out the lease stuff with us with his mom a few days later, and his mom was acting really weird towards me. And so he ended up staying with me that night and a few nights after. So then when he was sleeping, I looked through his phone and found all the bipolar messaging that he was telling everybody.
Okay. All right. Well, the videos that you found on his Google Drive, did you save them?
I did. Yeah.
You did. Okay. You want to be very careful with that.
Yeah. I won't do anything with those, but
And so, okay, so you found out about the bipolar and the smear campaign, and then what happened?
I just kept asking him like what he had been telling everybody, and he won't admit anything. He says that he would never say a bad word about me, that he told them all the truth, but I know that's not true. So it's been very frustrating because he knows that I saw the messages too, and he just won't admit anything.
Have you said anything to his family?
Yes, I've tried, but I feel like they just think I'm crashing out. So
What did you say?
I told them that I'm not bipolar and that he has no, like he did cheat on me and that they have no right to spread those rumors about me amongst their family, like,
Yeah.
because it's
I mean,
not
and not that
true.
you would or should do anything with these videos, but have you reminded them that, like, I would never distribute this stuff because it's not mine to distribute, but I have these.
Yes, I have told them that I have proof, and, he said that he would sue me for revenge porn, so
Yeah. I mean,
which I wouldn't distribute them, but I'm like, "Hey, I"
do you have the message of him saying, did he text you that?
yeah,
Well, him saying he would sue you for revenge porn is him acknowledging that these videos exist.
yeah, it is, but is it even worth it,
Well,
you
that's a
know?
whole different conversation. And we definitely want to get the answer is no, it's not worth it for sure. You're still very much like healing and hurting right now, right? And to be clear, this smear campaign, these things he's saying about you, seems to be limited to his family and maybe his friends.
Yeah,
And in the grand scheme of things, like, who cares? I mean, I know you care right now, but it's just only going to hurt you most likely more to stay invested. Like right now you have two choices, right? Assuming that you have moved on from this guy, and like you've decided, I don't want to work on it. Forgive him. It was one thing for him to catch him doing this, then his response and his actions in terms of getting caught, arguably almost more hurtful, to lie, to try to hurt you, to protect himself, knowing he's already hurt you, is pretty sinister. So assuming that you are completely know that you can't get back together with this person and you've accepted that, which not even sure if you're 100% there. I don't know. I mean, it's still very raw, but assuming that's the case, then your two choices are to, one, try to convince people who I understand you've been very close with, you've built a relationship with, you were going to marry this man. But the reality is, like, if you're not getting back together with this person, this relationship with this family is also over, like, forget about the cheating and the nastiness of this breakup and how you found out and just how unbelievable I'm sure it feels, even if it was cordial, even if you guys just woke up one day and looked at each other and said, we're not compatible, let's break up. And you both kind of like weirdly felt like relieved and cared about the other person. You would reach out to his family, you'd reach out to his sister, you guys would talk about, like, you guys are sad and want to stay in touch, but eventually, and I don't know when, that relationship would slowly go away. It might go away when he meets someone else, or it might go away when you meet someone else, but eventually, your next person, and who knows when that person will reveal itself, could be years from now, I don't know, could be next week. They're not going to love the fact that you're like still besties with your ex-fiance's family. You know what I'm saying? And so right now it's very hard because, like, you don't want to break up with his family either because, like, you care about them and there's a relationship, and that's just hard to let go. And then your ego, I'm sure, is triggered, because, like, he hurt you and now he's hurting you again because the people you cared about and his opinions who you respect have, you're afraid, think a certain way about you.
yeah,
You just have to remember more than anything, and I hope this helps you out. This is, you've heard me say, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy, right? Like, you're right here. You caught this guy. He's lying. He did a fucked up thing. And even if he wasn't convincing his family that you're bipolar, you would still want them to empathize with your pain. You would still want them to take your side. You would still want them to hold their son or brother accountable, right? And that's fair. And however close you are with his family, they're not your family, they're his family, And at the end of the day, maybe they do believe you. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's just like, well, whether we believe you or not, he is our brother. We're not going to, like, disown him over this. Like, you guys aren't together. So, it's like, I think we just need to, like, slowly let go, and you're here. It just feels wrong. It feels, again, like you already got a punch to the face. Now they're kicking you in the groin. It just doesn't feel right or fair. And it is not right or fair. But your energy right now is not being channeled on healing. Your energy right now is being channeled on being right and convincing people that you're not crazy and you're not wrong. But the reality is, if you're not going to get back together with this man, these people will just not be a part of your life going forward. At some point, they will be a distant memory. They just will. You know? How old are you again?
32.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're pretty young. Yeah. It seems crazy, but like 5 years from now, his sister will, someone who's going to pop up in your memory photo book, and you'll be like, oh, I wonder what she's doing. And it's hard to swallow that now.
They're also not letting me let it go though, because there's, the pages?
I'm familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, he was posted on one of those recently, and someone else that I don't know commented on it saying that his engagement just ended and his fiance found him cheating. And all I did was comment on it and say, "Can you DM me? Because I'm wondering what the timeline of this is." And his sister commented on it, basically calling me a liar in front of
Yeah.
everyone. So it's like, well, just like leave me alone.
I'm going to push back on a little bit in that you're still playing a part of that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not, again, it's not fair. It's not fair. It's just, and that's the one thing you can allow yourself to acknowledge, that this is not fair. But then you just have to accept that it's not fair and not try to make it fair for you, you know? Because like, why, my question to you is like, when I'm going to push back is, why does the timeline matter at this point?
It really doesn't, but it's just more. I sat in my apartment for 2 weeks by myself wondering, like, if I actually am crazy. Because why was it so easy for these people that I've known for so long to just completely switch over, you know? So, it's just more validation because it made me feel crazy
Yeah.
how
No,
they were so quick to accept it.
yeah. I can imagine that, but like, it's his family.
Yeah.
You know, listen, I don't recommend you doing it, but I don't think it'd be the end of the world if you screenshotted his message to you threatening to sue you for revenge porn and just sent it to his sister and been like, I'm not lying. I won't message you again, but like, it's been hurtful enough to have my entire life blown up for things outside of my control. But then to have the person I thought I was going to marry not only like not hold himself accountable, but trying to ruin my reputation and say these very hurtful and false things about me is just like something I just never would have imagined. And you can say, I don't have hard feelings towards you, but like, I'm not lying, and I wish you well, and I goodbye. You could do that, and make sure that like it comes across as very, normal. I mean, I'm sure you've been hurt, but have you, when you reached out to her, did you call like manically or anything like that? Because like,
Uh,
boy, if you're dealing with someone who's bipolar, I mean, it's intense.
Yeah. And I mean, I was very upset for
Sure.
days, but I feel like it's valid.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. But yeah, I mean, short of that, like, I mean, I don't think that would be the end of the world. That would be, technically unnecessary, slightly petty, but that's not revenge porn. By like he's admitting that this video exists. Obviously, you should not save it. You should delete it. By the way,
Yeah.
you know, because like it's just not good to have
No.
for a variety of reasons, and it's just like it puts you in a vulnerable position for him to use that against you. So I would definitely delete it. But that message about him admitting that those videos exist and him threatening to sue you is, to me, that sounds like an admission of guilt.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't. I'll just get over it.
Yeah, no, listen, it sucks. You're just, I don't know, when stuff like this happens, it just, for me, I often would feel stuck, I can't believe this happened to me. This kind of like, just, it's very easy in these times that you're dealing with to make a bad situation worse by pitying yourself. It feels unfair, but you'll get through this. And I know like this is such a, probably the last thing you want to hear, but like, and I know you know this, but like, thank God, you know now.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier. A lot.
So, I mean, so much
Over.
easier. Yeah, it could have been so much. It really could have been so much worse.
Yeah.
You know, after you have a kid,
Yeah.
it's a real blessing. But I'm really sorry you're going through this.
Thank you.
Are you talking to anyone? Therapy? Are you surrounding yourself with friends and family?
Yes. My family lives in a different state, but yeah, all my friends have been great, and I'm in therapy too. So
Yeah, well, that's good. The best revenge, again, this is going to sound like cliche and people have said this, but really is just living well, you know? Because the truth is like clearly he's got something going on and he's spiraling. And for him to make up this type of lie is him continuing to spiral and him not facing the reality of his life and his situation and the fact that he got caught or what this means. I mean, shit, like he's sending videos individually to his old roommate and his wife. I mean, that sounds like a very kinky, weird, situation. And he probably feels a lot of shame and embarrassment for getting caught. And he's very nervous about like the world finding out. This is like a little deeper than him just like, Googling some OnlyFans model and writing her and like sending her videos. This is a little deeper than that. And he's feeling a lot of embarrassment and shame, which is just a guess where this like reaction is coming from. It's fight or flight and he's fighting.
Yeah, I would be embarrassed too.
Yeah. But it's not your problem anymore, and you just have to have faith that karma will work itself out. But like the more you invest in this relationship, in this person, in this family, the more it's just going to hurt you and the longer it'll take for you to heal. And it sounds so unfair because it is, but it's really annoying, but it's definitely the best approach.
I agree.
All right. Well, I'm sorry you're going through this. I'd love an update in the future, just kind of how you're doing. Like when people find themselves in the situation you're in, it really feels like you can't see the forest for the trees and you can't see the silver lining. You seem to be in a fairly decent headspace, all things considered, but, would love to connect with you when you are really, truly feeling grateful that this happened, as opposed to knowing that someday you will feel grateful that this happened. And I'd love to connect with you and get an update from you when that happens.
Okay.
All
For
right.
sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, take care.
Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye. Quince has been one of my absolute favorite destinations when I need to upgrade my closet. It just seems like it's a fast fashion world out there. And, you go to one store, you feel like you've been to all of them, but not with Quince. They have some incredible pieces. We've raved about their Mongolian cashmere sweaters because they're awesome, and their prices are even more incredible. They also have incredible basics like their 100% linen relaxed short sleeve shirt, an absolute must-have for this summer season coming up. Quince has all the things that you actually want to wear, like organic cotton silk polos, European linen beach shorts, and comfortable pants that work for everything from backyard hangs to nice dinners. The best part, everything with Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than what you would find at similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middleman, Quince gives you luxury pieces without the crazy markups. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices with premium fabrics and finishes. We absolutely love that. All I'm saying, ladies, if you're shopping for your man, you don't know what to get him, whether it's for Father's Day it's coming up, people, or a birthday, or just because you love them, get them the gift of Quince. They will thank you. You will thank them. Everyone will be happy that they look sexy in Quince. Elevate your closet with Quince. Go to quince.com/VIALL for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/VIALL to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/VIALL. We talk about our dogs, Jeff and Steve, because we love them so much. And we love them so much that we made sure that we got them pet health insurance. And we just want to make sure that our dogs were covered. And we were able to get them their pet health insurance through our friends at the ASPCA. Today's episode is sponsored by the ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program. Your pet is part of your family, and you want the best for them no matter what. But vet bills can really add up, especially when those lovely animals eat things they're not supposed to, and you needed to take an emergency visit to that animal hospital. Those charges can add up fast. And thank God you have the ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program to help when those things happen.
The ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program offers customizable accident and illness plans, make it easier for pet parents like you to help your pet get the care that they need. The ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program has been around for over 18 years, and they've helped more than 600,000 pets during that time. They allow you to customize your plan, helping ensure that your pet's plan is as unique as they are, because vet bills can really add up, especially when you're least expecting it. It's simple. Use their app to submit a claim, and you'll receive reimbursement for eligible vet bills directly into your bank account.
To explore coverage, visit aspcapetinsurance.com/VIALL. That is aspcapetinsurance.com/VIALL. Again, that is aspcapetinsurance.com/VIALL. This is a paid advertisement. Insurance is underwritten by either Independent American Insurance Company or the United States Fire Insurance Company and produced by PTZ Insurance Agency Limited. The ASPCA is not an insurer and is not engaged in the business of insurance. How's it going?
Hi, my name is Melissa. I am 38 years old, and I am wondering if I am undateable.
No. You're not. All right. See you later. I'm just kidding. Why is that a thought that is percolating up in your head?
So, like I said, I'm 38 years old. I'm never married, don't have kids, but I still want that. And I'm just struggling to find someone in my dating pool who like is looking for what I'm looking for.
Who's in your
I
dating? What describe to me
well
your
that's
dating pool?
I think that's my problem is I don't know who's in my dating pool. Find that men my age either are looking for something not serious or they have already had the family or maybe had the marriage already and they're not looking to have that right
Mm.
now. That's not a priority for them. And so I don't really know who wants to date me.
Yeah.
Like, I know I have a lot of great qualities
Mhm.
that I bring to the table, but I don't I think once people know what my intentions are and I'm very clear about what I want in a relationship, what my goals are, I find that it kinda leads nowhere.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, I mean, how early in when you're dating do you bring up like your relationship goals?
I guess pretty early on,
Mhm.
just because I think it's important to
Yeah.
be transparent about what I'm looking for. I don't feel like I'm in a position to waste time. I am pretty upfront about the fact that, like, my short-term goals are to particularly have a kid
Mhm.
in the near future. But I try not to, like, push that. I also want to, like, allow a real connection to develop first before I'm even having that conversation.
Mhm.
So, I don't know.
Have you frozen your eggs?
I did.
You did. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good because hopefully that just will like allow you to extend your timeline a little bit and maybe take a little bit of pressure off yourself.
Yeah. You know, I did it. I was in a relationship at the time
Mhm.
when I did it, and the reason why that relationship ended was because he was not ready to have kids.
How old was he?
Um, 35,
Okay.
and that's just kind of what I'm finding, and I don't know if it's because, like, who I'm choosing. I don't know if it's, like, the area that I live in where there's just, like that seems to just not be something that a lot of people are looking for, or if they wanted that, they already found it somewhere else.
Yeah. Are you
I
in a
don't know. I don't know
city, a
what
more
that was.
rural area?
I'm not in a rural area. I would say I'm about an hour outside of a big city.
Okay.
But there is, like, a lot that goes on in this area. I go out a lot, like, I socialize, I'm on the apps, like, I put myself out there socially, and I don't have problems meeting people, but it's most of the guys that I'm interested in are like, "I'm looking for something casual right now," or, "I'm not really looking to have more kids in the near future."
And who are the guys you're interested in? Like, do you when you look at the pool of men that either you match with, go on dates with, what similarities or patterns are you noticing other than their lack of interest in maybe having kids or getting into something serious?
I don't know. I think I've always kind of dated guys that are a little younger than me.
Okay.
Um,
Why?
I don't know, maybe because I look young, so I attract guys that are a little younger than me.
You don't attract older men? Because older men like
Sometimes
older men like young people. I get that sounds weird,
they
creepy,
yeah. No, it's not.
but I guess that's what I'm saying. It's just like, is it because is it that, or is it like, does it make you feel good to be able to attract younger men?
I mean, yeah, it's like a confidence boost that, like,
Sure.
a younger guy would
Yeah,
be
there's nothing
interested
wrong with
in
that.
me,
I'm
but
just like,
no, but I also don't think that's, like, necessarily why I'm choosing the guys I choose. I think there's something that, I find interesting about them.
mhm.
It's not so much a physical appearance thing for me as it is, is this person emotionally aware? Can they have real conversations about deep things? And so I think like the types of guys I date, I don't have like there's not a lot in common with them. Like I had this conversation with my friends last weekend. Like if you like put my boyfriends all together and line them up, you wouldn't see much in common with them. So I don't know.
See, I would bet that's not true. I'd be willing to bet there's a lot of things, especially visually or just on the surface, they seem very, very different, but there's got to be
Yeah.
some kind of similarities, there's got to be, and maybe the similarities is their age or their lack of knowing what they want in their life. I just will, like men, we all hear about like the biological clock thing. Most men are at least aware of it. I think in life, I think especially men, but people in general, it's just like we don't really know what we want until it's right in front of our face sometimes. And then, today's dating climate is even more challenging before because like everyone's kind of non-committal and marriage, it's like it's just not what it used to be in a sense. Like, there's, not that it was necessarily a great thing back in the day where like divorce wasn't really even a socially acceptable thing. That did drive people to deal with their shit better and work on things and not check out. Now it also caused a lot of like infidelity behind the scenes and it was a lot of like secrets. But now it's just like the laws being what they are, and it's just like the marriage laws are still antiquated. They haven't evolved with the time. And then there's all these things in terms of like, well, why would I get married if all it does is like put me in some sort of shitty contract? So and then it's just like if you're dating a younger, let's say you're 38, so you meet a 34-year-old, which from an age standpoint completely like whatever, normal, appropriate. You look young, he looks his age or whatever. But, he's going to be like, I'm not ready today to have kids. And even if I want to have kids in the future, I mean, like I had dated older women, in my 30s, women who had kids. And I was always someone who's like, I know I want to have kids, right? That was always a constant for me. That was never a doubt. And especially in my 30s, I was very anxious. I was ready to be a father. That being said, at the time in which I was dating there, I was also a guy who was like a year or two coming off being the bachelor. I was living in Los Angeles. I was out there hustling. I was doing just fine financially. It wasn't about that, but I didn't know what the future held for me. I was making money today, but I was like, is this going to be available to me a year from now? And so like my future was very uncertain, even though my knowledge of wanting to be a dad was very clear. So then when I was dating older women who like had kids, and I was like, who I thought maybe wanted to have more kids, was more like, I just feel like if I say yes to this relationship, we immediately have to start talking about like family planning. It just kind of felt weird and heavy a little bit. Fair or not,
Yeah.
that was just a thought process that went in my head thinking about like, how's this going to work? It kind of felt a bit
Yeah, no,
off.
I totally get it. And I think like what's hard is that I never thought I would be in this place. I've always been in relationships and been, someone who thought that like one of those relationships would end in marriage, and it just didn't work out,
Mhm.
the way I planned. So I hate that like I'm in this position where I have to be like, "Hi, nice to meet you. Do you want to have kids in the next 3 to 5 years?"
Yeah.
Like I don't want it to be that way, but like I have made the choice to
Yeah.
like prioritize this.
And
So,
I'm glad that you have stuck to your
yeah.
guns there. And I'm glad that you are
Yeah.
clear in terms of what you want for yourself. And I think that will serve you well, even though right now it almost feels like your confidence in knowing what you want almost gets in the way of you finding someone. Um, but you're not looking for somebody, you're looking for,
Yeah.
you know,
I'm very specific about what I want. I keep saying I don't want like a sperm donor. And that's not what I'm looking for. If that were the case, I could have had a kid a long time ago. Like not a problem, but
is that
I
something you're open to?
decided
Just out of curiosity?
I am, but I can't afford it.
Okay.
Like I couldn't afford it living where I live.
Hmm. Okay.
Um I can barely take care of myself right now.
Gotcha.
Well, that's not true.
I see what
I
you're
work
saying.
very hard up,
Yeah,
but you
it's
know
a
what I
lot.
mean.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
It's a
it's
very
just it's a big
privileged
responsibility.
thing for
It
people to
is.
do.
It is. So, would I do it at some point? Like I've considered it. Obviously, when I froze my eggs, I was like, there's a possibility that I had the conversation with my boyfriend at the time, like, would you make embryos with me? And he didn't want to. And so I was like, all right, well, I guess, then I'm really just going to have to like wing this, and hope
Mhm.
that something works out along the way. But I don't know. I just
So when was the last time you
feel
dated
like,
someone like 10 years older than you?
okay, so actually I went on a date
Uh-huh.
recently with a guy who's 50.
Okay.
Um and he's like super nice and just a gentleman, I think, in a way that is different than the guys that are normally in the dating pool who really just don't make any effort to make you feel special or any of that. So he's been really lovely, but he's also 50 years old and divorced and has like 4 kids. And I'm like at the point where I know I have to have the conversation about what I want, and whether that's something he's open to in order to kind of
Yeah.
determine whether it's worth me continuing to see him. But I hate to like put that pressure on somebody because I also understand that,
He'll live.
yeah, I know.
You know.
Yeah.
The short and simple answer, which sucks and it's not probably not very helpful, is, just to continue to be patient, and understand that like the most important thing for you to do is to try to like get rid of these self-limiting beliefs. This am I undateable stuff. What's wrong with me? Where did it go wrong? I think we can look in the mirror, ask ourselves tough questions, ask what is the thing that I can control? What are the things that I could work on
Yeah.
without going
Yeah.
10 steps further and feeling sorry for yourself and being like, what's wrong with me? Like there's things
Yeah.
wrong with all of us. And we got to look at things being wrong with us, quote unquote, as a positive, because that gives us control. It gives us control over fixing things. Now, me, I have a toxic ability to look for things that are wrong so that I can fix things that are wrong, because I'd rather feel like I'm in control of a situation rather than accepting that things are outside of my control. Right. So like, you don't want to do that. But you also don't want to sit there and pity yourself and just talk negatively about yourself and ask and put these self-limiting beliefs in your head. Like, what's the point? Is it harder for you? Yeah. Like, does it get harder as you get older with your biological clock and feeling the pressure and not knowing, should I date younger men my age, older men? They all three options. You know what I'm saying? There's no. Right now, it
They
feels
all
like
suck.
there's flaws with all of these possibilities, right? You're either
Yeah.
dating the 45, 50-year-old man who has kids or clearly doesn't want kids because he hasn't had them yet and nothing's changed. 35-year-old men these days seem like 25-year-old men,
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's a couple of things. Like, you've probably heard me say this before. Regardless of age, I think it's very important for women who are very serious about settling down or having kids to not fuck with men who clearly don't know what they want to be when they grow up, so to speak.
Yeah.
If they talk negatively about their job, if they are dreamers about like their future, if they are entrepreneurial, but it's more of a dream than a reality, that's not.
I know.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've weeded through all of them, Nick.
Yeah.
And like the reality is I've done so much work on myself. I have learned to like really feel more confident in myself over these last few years than I ever did. And I'm so proud of so many things in my life. And I'm like, the people who know me are like, you have it all together. Like, why can't you just find a man? Like, I don't understand why you're still single, And so that sucks because I don't know. I'm like, is it me? Am I like picking the wrong people, or I'm just not doing the right things to like keep these relationships going?
I mean,
What
there's
is it?
probably
Like,
something, one or two things that you are doing that you
yeah.
could probably tweak or change. I haven't really figured that out yet talking to you.
Yeah.
I mean, this 50-year-old
Yeah.
man, 4 kids, you went out with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think immediately, also the challenge for you is it's like, there's a good chance your guy won't think he wants the things that he wants when he meets you. if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, when I met
Yeah.
when I met Natalie, I got to a point where I was like, I still want to have kids, but fuck marriage.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really believed that. You know, it wasn't
Yeah.
like an absolute
No, you're just
non-negotiable.
skeptical of it.
But I was
Yeah.
just like, what's the point? I don't know. Like, I really don't give a shit. It was more like, if I meet someone who really wants to do it, I guess I'd be open to it, but I don't think I'm looking for that type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, and so and that's honestly probably not even helpful, because like that's like,
No, it's not. And no offense, you married a 25-year-old,
yeah,
you know? So like that's what I'm up against, you know, because now I'm competing with 25-year-olds out here. I know that I bring things to the table that 25-year-olds don't,
mm-hmm.
in terms of like, I'm self-sufficient, I'm independent, I have a great job. Like, I don't need anybody to take care of me, but I want somebody who like just wants to do
Yeah.
things for me. I'm so used to like my whole life having to take care of myself, which is why I'm so good at being so independent. But I just want someone who wants to take care of me.
No,
So,
it makes a lot of
yeah.
sense. Well, when are you supposed
No.
to see this 50-year-old man again?
So he is away right now.
Okay.
He went to Europe and he's been like sending me pictures and like saying, I wish you could see this, and just again, like really nice, sweet stuff. So I am going, I'm sure, to hear from him once he gets back. And funny enough, since I've written into you, I've had a few men kind of come along. I think they come in like spurts.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I convinced my friend to go to like a singles event with me recently. And I mean, it was terrible in that it was 95% women. And the men that were there were just not great, which was just a reinforcement of my feeling that there's like nothing in the dating pool for me. But there was one guy who I had recognized, like I've definitely seen him around before, and we started talking. And again, like my gut instinct is like, no, you don't like this guy. But he was like very nice, and I got along well with him. And at the end of the night, I was like, you know what? Let's exchange numbers. And he asked me out, and so I am going out with him. And he's 41.
Okay.
Never married, doesn't have kids, seems to want what I want. I just don't know if I don't know if this is like who I'm looking for, you know?
Tell me
I
why.
feel like I'm lowering my standards
Tell
a
me why.
little. I don't know. It feels so shallow.
That's
I
okay.
just like, I'm not like attracted to him.
Okay. Well,
And like that's not always super important to me, but I don't know. I just like get like a kind of ick a little. I hate it. I feel so shallow, but like it's
well,
just
you know,
kind of how I feel.
what I've learned about the ick is that every man is capable of giving it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, the tall, good-looking ones mask it a
Yeah.
little better. And then you kind of
Right.
get to know them, and you wake
So
up with
that's
them
why I
one
want to
morning.
give him a chance,
Yeah.
because I'm like, he seems like a nice enough guy, you know, and I just feel like there's like some similarities between us. So I am gonna like go out with him and give him a chance. But
Well, I'm
like
glad
I
you're doing
said,
that. I think, I mean, probably you know, there's a good chance your person is someone that there will be a flaw you see, you know. You're
yeah,
right. I married
yeah,
someone a lot younger than me. I had a lot of, you know, I saw a lot of flaws in that relationship early on. Like when I met Nally, you know, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but it was like,
right.
you know, after the first week, and I was like, we're never going to date. I just want to be very clear. This is never going to happen, you know, and then it did. Right. So, you know,
Yeah,
not saying it's the same scenario as yours. I'm just saying, like, as we get, you know, like the harder part as we get older, we get more confident in what we know, what we want, you know,
yeah,
and so I do remember dating in my 30s, and I remember, honestly, I said this to my therapist, I said this to close friends, and it was like, do I just have to pick someone and just have a kid with them? Because I don't know if I'm going to fall in love again, because I'm not going to be 22 anymore, and I'm not planning on going back on TV to have someone like fuck with my emotions so that I just like convince myself I'm falling in love. And so everyone I go out with seems fine. You know, everyone seems fine. and they're nice and beautiful and cool. And I like this about her and I like that about her and yada, yada. But like everyone seemed fine. And then I met someone whose company I really enjoyed and was just like, then I was like, but there's this huge flaw. And like, she's a lot younger than me and I will never date her, you know? And I'm glad that you have to change something. You know, you have to say yes to things about like that seem odd and set your ego aside. You're not guaranteeing to marry these people. You're basically saying no to your ego, your snapshot judgment of people, your projection of how you feel and things like that. And I've had to tell myself this, it's just like your instant reaction to men and your initial attraction to various men hasn't gotten you anywhere. So the feeling of not settling by saying yes to a man you're excited about, who you know nothing about, also hasn't gotten you anywhere. And you're not looking for arm candy, and you're not looking for a partner where all your friends go, oh, you know, who like, you know, instantly want to fuck them or something. You know, you're looking for a man who wants to have children, who wants to be a good father and a good partner and take care of you. And if you want to make your friends jealous, so, you know, we all want to make our friends jealous to a certain extent, but like, you might have to change how you make them jealous. You know, it's going to be because you found someone that, you know, 5 years from now, when they're all complaining about their husbands, you're not. Even if his nose is a little crooked or something, or even if he's 5'10" and not 6'2", you know?
We're 5'7" and balding. Oh. It's so hard. I know. And I hate
like
myself
there's you know,
you
know, the balding thing you could take care of nowadays, these days. So or you can shave your head. 5'7", not much you can do about 5'7".
Not much you could do. I know. And like, it's sad that he even said it to me. He's like, I know that like most girls don't like to talk to me because I'm 5'7". I'm like, that's crazy. Because I don't think I'm really like that.
I mean, yeah, you are.
I don't know.
You're a human being. You are.
Yeah, a little bit.
Listen, I don't know.
I don't rule anybody out because of like their height. I've dated guys that are like,
I mean, there's some kind of biology. You know, we at the end of the day are not too many years removed from living in fucking caves. You see a man who's 5'7", and your biology tells you he can't protect me the way a 6'5" monster can. And I need to be protected. You know, I don't, you know, like there's that, I don't know. It is a reality, you know, it just is, you know? And I'm not saying this guy's your person. I just have a lot of
empathy for the short guys too. Yes. Like I have empathy.
There's a lot of, and I'm hearing you talk, and I really appreciate this call, because there's a lot of people in your position, a lot of women specifically. There's also a shit ton of lonely men out there.
I know,
and it sucks. And I sit here wishing, I don't know what I wish I could help solve the dating dilemma that's out there. I don't. Yeah. I don't have.
It's just so hard to connect to people, and I have been in therapy for a long time. I'm also a therapist. Like that's what I do by trade. So I'm very aware of like relationships and dynamics. I hear other people's stories. I have my own stories. You know, I think I'm pretty in tune with things. I do my best not to be pessimistic. It is something that I'm actively, constantly working towards, because my like default setting is to be a little pessimistic about things.
Well, that's because you're a realist, you know, and you're self-aware, and that, you know, you have done work on yourself. And I'm not a therapist, but like talking to people about their problems and being self-aware and trying to like lean on my past experiences to help people. Yes. It's in your, you know, because you see the angles, you see the other side, you know, you see the reality, and you hear, you know, as a therapist, right? Like you see people lie to themselves constantly, and the bullshit you see people tell themselves. So then you try to tell yourself, I'm not going to be that person who's just constantly bullshitting themselves.
Right.
But sometimes that does get in the way. It really does. Like I think you have to be willing to be wrong. I think we've said this, but like when I was dating Natalie, and Natalie was like, I'm tired of this bullshit, and like we're just going back and forth, and I'm just like, I can't fucking do it. I was too scared, and I called my friends who married us, And they're one of the few people whose opinions I really trust. And my friend Andy's 10 years older than Charlene, you know, but they met when Charlene was like in her late 20s, early 30s. So like their age difference, you know,
it seemed less important.
And I asked for their advice, and they loved her. They met Natalie the first weekend I met her, and we were it was our third day hanging out, and Charlene like said to me, "She's great." And I'm like, I know. And I'm like, and she's like, but she's too young. And I'm like, I know. And then like fast forward I don't know how many months later, I was like, I'm thinking about trying. And they were like, I don't think it should work. I don't think it'll work. And the truth is their advice was right. And it was sound, you know, like if you just like, if a friend said to you, like, what should I do? And you're trying to give them the most pragmatic, thoughtful advice, where, you know, just playing the odds. It was like that. This is a risky choice. But I ultimately got off the phone. I was just like, I don't know. Fuck it. I just got to see this through, you know?
Yeah. You're like, I'm going to do it anyway.
I'm just going to do it. Cause like at that point, I was just like, I've dated a handful of women, and I'm so good at just looking for the flaw. You know, I'm so good at finding the reason it won't work. But I never tried with them. You know, and I thought to myself, well, I could have tried with them. And I don't know, listen, I wasn't like sad I didn't end up in any of them, but like it did leave me with questions, you know, and here I was, you know, at this point, I wasn't like, I mean, I probably did like, I was in love with Natalie, but I was just very confused about my feelings, and you know, and I still felt like you
were talking yourself out of it because you're like, I can't be in love with this person.
Yeah. And so then I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna find out. I'm just gonna fuck around and find out. And if we date for a year and we break up and it's messy, and all my friends say, well, I fucking told you that's what happens when you date a 22-year-old, then I'll deal with it, you know, and I'm not, you know, I know what I'm getting myself into, you know, I'm not deluding myself to think that, like, you know, I'm not going to go around, even though I thought she was mature for her age. I wasn't going to go around and like try to, like, you know, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I think that is kind of the mindset you're going to have to, you know, your person is not going to, it's at this point in your life, chances of a guy showing up at your door who seems too good to be true isn't going to present itself. And if he does, he's probably still not. It just won't show up right away because they're all flaws. So try saying yes to people who at first, you know,
I know. I feel like regardless, I have to settle in some way. Either it's like I settle for someone who I don't necessarily feel like that level of connection that I thought I'd feel with someone, or
change the narrative. Stop calling it settling. You're not marrying these guys, right? Yet, you know?
No.
And you are going to have to accept things about people. That's love.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Settling, when you say settling, there is a implication about winning in there, in a way. There is right? It's not, and you're not necessarily trying to win.
I know. I always say that I think other people view dating as like a race, and the finish line is like getting married, but that's really where it all starts. That's not where it ends, you know? And that's a misconception other people have that I don't think I do. At the same time, I guess, like, yeah, I kind of want to feel like,
I mean, like, for me, it's
I waited this long, like there's going to be like a great prize at the end of this for me.
Yeah, but that prize is happiness. You know, for me, I when it comes to my relationship with Natalie, I don't know how people perceive our relationship. I hope generally positively, but like everyone else, it's far from perfect. We put a lot of work into our relationship. You know what I'm saying? For me, whether it was deciding to date her or, you know, throughout our relationship, you know, whenever any obstacle presented itself, the question I asked myself is, you know, the same question I often ask other people, which is like, how does she make me feel overall? Not like in this moment, you know, whatever, but how do I feel being with her? How does she make me feel? And it was always, you know, she makes me feel loved. Even when I was the most upset with her and disconnected, it was like, I still feel like this person really cares about me and loves me and makes, you know, and that's what I'm looking for. And it was that. So I was looking for that happiness. Like, this person makes me feel happy. You know, if, you know, regardless of the names people would call me or call her, or regardless of shit we had to work through and things we realized about each other as we got to know each other, and things where it was like, yeah, you know, surprise, Natalie, like this is the person you fell in love with 6 months ago, and and vice versa. It was, but I love this. I feel the love. I love this person. It wasn't about, you know, like a lot of times when you're younger, it's just like, well, I don't know if I should accept this. You know, it's just more like this defiant. Like I was watching a show. This person had every right to be upset, you know, and every right to be, you know, and I don't know if they're going to get back together or not. And I'm not saying they should or shouldn't, but like, you know, sometimes we're just like, this is it, you know, if you lie, if you do this, I'm done. And it's, the reality is, as we get older, we get more complicated. Life becomes more complicated. We're a lot far from, you know, and that's not an excuse to accept bad behavior or settle or make excuses. But to me, life isn't, it's like, how do people respond to adversity is such a measuring stick for me.
I agree.
Because like we can't predict the future. No one's perfect. Everyone fucks up. We fuck up. But like, how do we respond to that adversity? How do we move forward, even if it is like a big fuck up type of thing? And to me, that's way more important than like how someone presents themselves in the first 6 weeks of meeting them, you know, or how tall they are, or what they look like, or what their age is, or things like that, you know? I mean, it's like when you, it's like, I remember meeting Natalie, and I don't know why I thought this, but I had such this perception of her family. Her family is so much like mine in so many ways, you know, like, which is completely imperfect and absolutely flawed, but they're great people. And there's a general closeness with her family, despite there's always some kind of internal conflict with her family. It's just like, you know, every other family.
Yeah.
But I just remember that I had this like idea, you know?
No, and it's good that you're able to like see that and recognize it, you know. I can do that to some extent, you know. I think we all do. I think when you meet somebody, you like get this initial perception of them that's either good or I don't know, or not good, and like your future interactions with them are kind of based off that initial judgment you make of them in a way.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of times that's what happens where like women are instantly like interested in a guy. Like you're focusing on certain details that you know or that you think you know, and sometimes you can exaggerate the positives or exaggerate the negatives of a person.
It's just like being on The Bachelor. I always tell people, it's just like at the end of the day, the Bachelorette or the Bachelor, they 99% of the time, they pick the person they're most physically attracted to, regardless of what they tell themselves or tell the audience or tell America. And it's not because they're more shallow than anyone else. It's because they are stuck and trapped in an environment where they can't trust anything. They have no support system. They have nothing. And the only thing they can trust is their eyes and the chemistry that they feel. And it's just like, I don't know any of these people, and I don't know who's being honest or sincere, and how can you be honest and sincere even in this environment? But what I do know, I think they're hot. And so I'm going to stick with that, and I'm going to hope for the best when at the end, you know.
And hope that builds a relationship can build out of physical attraction.
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
and that's no different than all of us in the dating world, where you trust your eyes, and then you kind of try to convince yourself that this person, you know, is the exception to the rule in these other areas. But you got to try to apply that thinking, you know, date people you are attracted to. I'm not saying you should go out there and start, you know, dating people you're not attracted to.
Yeah.
But like, you have to be open to finding that initial reason to say no and pushing through that early on.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to get to know people, which again, you're gonna have to take breaks because you're gonna get discouraged. And like, you know, it's just like, there's just more, there's just 99 out of 100 people like you shouldn't even be interested in, let alone have a future with.
The ones that I'm interested in are just not the right ones.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they're usually not. I mean, yeah.
I know. I feel like I should be beyond this because
that's an ego thing, right? You've decided, you know, 20, I don't know what age that person is in your head, but like 23-year-old you had a plan for yourself, and you're still holding on to that plan.
Yeah. No,
and it
like
pisses you
20.
off
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
plans
That's
change.
it.
Yeah.
No, and then I like talk to my friends who are in their late 20s, and I'm like, "Oh, your boyfriend's so great. How old is he?" "He's 38." I'm like, "Oh, well, there you go. The good 38-year-olds, I guess, are dating 28-year-olds, you know?" So
Maybe, maybe
it's just
not. You know what I'm saying though? But
frustrating.
like, you don't
I
know
don't
how
know,
their
or maybe he
relationship.
sucks, and I don't know, but it's frustrating. I guess, again, I have to, like, get past, like, those initial, like, surface things that I'm saying, like, "Oh, that looks like somebody I wanna be with," when it's really not about how that person looks that's gonna determine whether or not I wanna be with them.
Yeah. And your 28-year-old friends are like these relationships. Are they about to settle down?
Yeah, yeah, they're all, like, in that phase, you know? So,
Um.
it's kind of annoying.
Yeah. It is annoying. Not even kind of. It's totally annoying, and you have a right to be
It's
annoyed. But
really
you have to
freaking
allow. You
annoying,
have to.
yeah.
You have to try to get over that.
I'm trying to not be bitter, Nick, I'm really trying. It's
You
really
know, I mean,
hard.
and if you want to be a little bitter, be like, like I
Yeah.
always tell people, like half of these friends are gonna end up in divorce.
Yeah, I know. At least I like to say I skipped my first divorce because I didn't
I know I
marry
did.
the
I
guy
skipped my
I was
first
gonna
two.
marry. Yeah, yeah. I'm glad that I didn't marry the guy I thought I was gonna marry 10 years ago, you know? But at the same time, it sucks that, like, I'm still alone, you know? And I
Mm,
feel like I'm doing everything right in, like, every other aspect of my life. So, this is the one thing where I'm just not where I wanna be.
I would just mix up your dating pool a little bit more.
I
I
don't
would
really know.
I
I'm
would g-
trying.
I'd get away from the slightly younger men. Not that you have to completely do it, but like
I know.
because I
Like,
think there's
I
a
don't wanna
ton
go for,
of
like, balding, like, overweight guys either. I
yeah,
still
I
think I'm
hear
too
you.
cute
But
for
there
that. I
but there
don't
there
know.
are gonna be some not
I'm sure
balding.
they're very nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's gonna be some not balding, not totally overweight 40-some-year-old guys who just haven't found their person. And maybe some of these guys need a good woman in their lives to clean up their act. I mean, it's tough to like. I wish I could help some of these like lonely men who just need a reason to give a shit about themselves and put a
Yeah.
little, and get up and run a lap and eat healthier, and if they don't want to take pills or put cream on their head or get surgery or wear a
Right.
toupee or whatever, at least they shave their head. The truth is, like when I met Natalie, there's a lot of parts of my life where still very much it was giving 25-year-old guy.
Well, I think that's why you're able to men, like, it's not that hard to date someone that's 10,
Well, I
15
don't mean
years
it like in
younger
a
than
good way.
you.
I mean
No, no,
like I still had like
yeah.
like my apartment looked like I needed a woman to like.
No, that's the majority of men that I meet that are, like, around my age, you know? They need someone to take care of them a little bit or, like, mother them a little bit,
Yeah, I wasn't
I
looking for a mother, but like
find.
we all men like to be
Yeah,
taken care of. That's for sure.
sure.
Yeah, but it's just like, yeah, I don't know. It's like you don't want to look up for a total fixer upper because but it's just like
No.
I feel like your perfect guy is going to be someone who's like probably a few years older than you, uh, and lost their way a little bit because they, like yourself, has struggled finding their person
Yeah,
and bringing you into their life. Like they're not a total lost cause where they're looking
yeah.
for someone like you to just completely change them or fix their lives, but they just instead of like washing their sheets every 2 months or inviting a girl to their place where like there are no sheets on their bed because like who
Mm.
gives a shit, they have a little more self-respect.
Yeah,
um
that's gonna be a minimum requirement, I think.
I mean, I'm just saying, men are gross.
They kind of are.
They are. They just they
Yeah,
don't think about shit like that. And if
no.
and men who are mostly single get kind of stuck and they just get
Yeah,
comfortable with being kind of like adult children. You got to not lose hope. You got to stay patient. Stop with those self-limiting beliefs. Try to challenge yourself to like just mix it up a little bit, and then just try to enjoy the story. At least you froze, like you've frozen your eggs. Part of your reason why you haven't like thought of doing this on your own is because you don't need to yet. Embrace that, and
Yeah.
You know, I know this is all just kind of, I think some magic pill be like, oh, well, we know what you're doing wrong now, and go date. But
Yeah.
a lot of it is just not making a frustrating situation worse by thinking there is no hope.
Yeah.
And no one, like, it's not attractive to be negative. It's not attractive to show up frustrated on a date, or just to sound like you're just like, all right, you know, start talking, guy, and convince me why we're not going to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, and we've all shown up to dates like that before. I know I have, where
Mhm.
it's just like, why am I even fucking here? And the other person just thinks I'm a prick because I just have a negative attitude about this date and things like that. You know, when you feel that way, you just got to take some breaks.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I feel like I wasn't as helpful as I could be, but
No, it's okay. You know, I wasn't sure what I was expecting in terms of advice. So, you know, I think sometimes it's just good to hear a different person's perspective. You know, I talked to my therapist about this yesterday, the
with
fact
this,
that I was calling in, and she was like, I think that's great that you're doing it. Like, there's no harm in just hearing what somebody else thinks about the situation. And maybe there's something you can point out that she hasn't been able to, or something.
yeah.
But
What did she say?
like you, she's kind of telling me that, you know, I have to try and be open to different things that maybe initially don't feel like I'm not like jumping to like talk to these guys, but doing it anyway, you
Yeah.
know, and kind of pushing past that initial like reservation. She's just been really proud of me because I'm definitely like pushing myself out of my comfort zone. It's big for me,
It,
you know?
well, that's good. And the fact that you can
Yeah.
recognize it's big for you is a sign that you haven't done much of it in the past. And if you can continue down that path, something good's going to happen. You know, it's
Yeah.
always good to push ourselves out of our comfort zones as long as we're safe. Because we just are, you know, it's like as we get older, again, like that's what I always say, as we get older, our circle of friends gets smaller, right? You know, which is a good thing usually, but sometimes, again, we can get a little too, especially when we're single, right? Like, you know, like you're independent, and by definition you are good at being selfish because you only have to worry about yourself, which is fine because you're single. But like sometimes we can get a
Yeah.
little set in our ways, we can get a little too comfortable, we can a little, again, that pessimistic person. We need to
Right.
like challenge ourselves to expand our comfort zone. You know, when we have a partner, when we have kids, we are forced, you know, like when you know, now I'm learning, now Rivers, you know, 14 months, and it's like we're going to start making friends with a bunch of strangers we would never fucking talk to.
Yeah.
But now we have a daughter, we want her to make friends. So like we are forced to get out of our comfort zone and engage with people that we're like, I don't know if I would ever talk to this person, you know? And so
What I've been doing, I'm like going to these single events and like talking to other women. And I'm like, hey, are you in the same boat as me where like you're trying to meet people and you're not sure how to do it because your friends are all in relationships? Like, let's be friends. So I'm
and that's
trying to,
amazing, right? Like, but that's
yeah,
going to lead to good things. So you got to find the silver lining. Am a big believer. There's always a silver lining. There's always something to learn. You got to be patient. You know, this 50-year-old man, just tell him what you want. You know,
I know.
you
I
might,
know.
at some point, someone's going to surprise you,
Yeah.
but
And if nothing else, I felt like calling in was good because I know there are other women out there, other
yes,
people probably, not just women, who are in the same boat as me. And so,
a
you know,
ton. It's very, I was single my entire 30s. It's a weird decade to be single
yeah.
because you still feel very
And
young and you feel like you're full of potential,
yeah,
but you feel like you have all this baggage and the self-awareness, and it's just like, you know, it feels hard to fall in love. And I think it's coming from a decade where it felt easy to fall in love, but that easiness of falling
yeah,
in love was more came from our ignorance or our, you know,
totally.
whatever.
Yeah.
And you almost have to embrace a little bit more ignorance and a willingness to be wrong and stupid, especially as a therapist. Like, you're so good at like seeing the pitfalls and the gaps that you don't allow yourself to get hurt and you don't allow yourself to make mistakes. And I think you got to, maybe you got to get a little messier, which is, sounds like what you're doing, because stretching your comfort zone by definition is, you know, getting a little messy and allowing yourself to make mistakes. Because when you push your comfort zone, you are less aware of the pitfalls. You can't see the problem behind the corner because it's a new environment, it's a new situation. So I honestly think like more of that, with making sure you stay patient and positive, which is so annoying, but that's probably the best advice.
No, I appreciate it. It's true.
All right. Well, thank you for the call. I would love an update in the
Thank you.
future.
Yeah, hopefully I'll have a good update for you soon.
I'm sure you will. Just you got a lot of things going for you. So keep doing it. Just stop with the whole like, am I undateable?
Thank you
and then
again,
just try
Nick.
more older guys
Yeah.
than younger guys.
I know. I'm working on it. I'm trying.
The younger guys are filled with reasons of why they don't know. Again, remember, you know what it's like to be 30 and single, regardless, man or
Yeah.
woman. And so these 34, 35-year-old men, half of which don't even love their jobs and are about to enter in some sort of midlife crisis, partly because they're also single. It's like there's just more obstacles, and maybe
Yeah.
find the guy who's still single, but has pushed through that like weird phase of like trying to live up to their 20s or expectations and just kind of settle into like who they are as a human being.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, good luck out there.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If your brain is already at full capacity with to-dos and errands, birthdays, and the dinner plan for Tuesday, let Skylight Calendar handle the rest. It syncs your entire family schedule onto a sleek digital display so you can focus on more important things like remembering where you left your coffee. Skylight Calendar was designed to connect the digital and non-digital worlds while bringing families together. It's a Wi-Fi connected digital display that showcases your family schedule with clarity, color, and brilliance in either a 10 or 15-inch HD touchscreen. The all-in-one smart calendar syncs seamlessly with Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, Outlook, and more, giving you customizable views for daily, weekly, or monthly planning. It's so easy to manage events, chores, and grocery lists while assigning colors for each of your family members and eliminating excuses of not knowing what they needed to do. Honestly, Nick has not been like, oh, I forgot about River's pediatric appointment, because it's on the Skylight Calendar in our kitchen right next to the coffee machine. He sees it every single morning. And right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendar by going to skylightcal.com/VIALL. Go to skylightcal.com/VIALL for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's SKYLIGHTCAL.com/VIALL.
How's it going?
Hello, my name is Sam, and I'm turning 40 years old next week, and I'm worried I'll never be in another long-term relationship.
Okay. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Why are you worried you'll never be in a long-term relationship?
I've been in one. It didn't work out. And then I've been dating. I've learned all the dating lessons, gone through all the dating scenarios. I feel very well versed. I'm a good student of dating. But now I think I'm so psyched out from my bad experiences and what I've learned that I don't know I would know what to do if an opportunity presented itself.
Okay. What are your relationship goals right now as a 40-year-old woman?
I'm not 40 yet.
As a 39-year-old woman. No, I get it. I mean, I hold on to that age until
my goals are I would really love to have another partner in my life. I would really have to have that intimacy, that trust, that idea that I'm not going through all this alone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I need the technicality of marriage again, of having that paper signed. I've been married before.
Okay. Kids, or do you have kids, not want kids? Where do they fall in the equation?
I have 2 kids.
Okay.
I have 2 boys.
Uh-huh.
They're younger. They're 7 and 9.
Okay.
I am open to more kids. I've never thought of writing off the idea of no more kids or I need more kids. I very much believe that that would be something when I would meet that person that we would determine together if that would make sense.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm open to it.
Okay. That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about your past relationship or relationships that have kind of really seemed to cause some anguish and fear. I literally just got off the phone with a woman who's a little younger than you, but relatively the same age, who has yet to get married and has yet to have kids and who very much wants to have kids, and different but similar to you, has a lot of fear if, like, what's wrong with her? Will she ever find it?
Yeah.
What you have going for you that she doesn't have is like, the reality is like she, wanting kids, as a 30-year-old woman, has presented a lot of obstacles for her. It's just like, she feels like, if she dates a little younger, she meets men that, aren't sure what they want and maybe aren't even ready to have kids, where she's just like, hey, I'm not trying to like put a timeline on you, but like, hey, you know, I gotta be intentional about this. Whether she meets men who are like are older, who already have had kids, who don't want more, you know, and all you're looking for is a life companion, you know, which is it's hard, and I get it, but like that, you know, it's the good news is, in terms of your biggest challenge, what I'm hearing from you is just working through whatever trauma you've experienced, because it sounds like intentionally or unintentionally, you feel like it's affecting how you can be in relationships, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the meme of, I don't know how to act around warm bread. It's like, I don't know how to act around, like when that potential is in front of me, all these alerts go off of past things, of past examples and scenarios. I feel like I've clocked something, and then I turn around and walk away from it, or I don't even know how to act around it.
Tell me about the relationship that fucked you up.
So, I mean, I think the biggest one is obviously my last marriage, or my only marriage that ended. So that was a situation where from start to finish, it was not good. I probably should have walked away from it a lot earlier. I met this person out of college. We were together for about 5 or 6 years before we got married. We were married for a little under 8 years, had my 2 boys. But the relationship itself was incredibly strained. And I, for years, would deal with, I've heard a lot of narcissistic talk and labeling. So I'm sensitive to the use of that word, but I was dealing with someone who truly battled demons, and I got sucked into that world and had a really hard time with this person for several years. And I had threatened divorce. I felt very trapped. I felt very like, what do I do? I have 2 boys. How do I get out of this? It was very miserable for a very long time, and I didn't know how to get out of it. But the nail in the coffin was, at the end of our relationship, he acknowledged being in love with someone else and wanting to end our marriage. And in a way, of course, that broke me, and that trust, in a way, it set me free. But because of that, I then set off to have, try to find my person. But that was really hard, because I'd given so much to myself for that, nearly decade and a half. I had become whatever that person needed me to be to make that relationship survive. And so when that was no longer in the picture, it was trying to figure out who I was after that relationship.
How long ago did that relationship end?
The separation was in the summer of 2022, but the divorce process took a little over 2 years.
Okay. Yeah. So it's still pretty raw.
It's pretty raw in that it didn't just end and then I moved on and had a happy life. It dragged on, and with wounds getting reopened along the way, and he's still with that person. They have a child, so yeah, it's still pretty fresh, relatively speaking.
Okay. I imagine it must be kind of hurtful or painful to reflect on that relationship and say things to me or yourself like, I should have left a long time ago, or I stayed in it too long and I felt trapped, but I kept fighting, and then have him be the one who says, I'm out. And then almost I imagine there's probably a lot of anger, self-anger about like allowing him to make you feel that way, where it's just like you felt so powerless in a relationship and you couldn't even find the power to leave a man who you knew you should have left a long time ago. Right? I'm guessing these are all.
Yeah, those are all the emotions. And then you add a layer of having children with this person. And then now you have that. When I say that, though, if I say something like, I wish I would have left so much sooner, am I sacrificing the love I have for the 2 boys I got out of it? Because obviously they're my life and I love them. So there's so many layers to that acknowledgement of, I think I messed up by not getting out sooner.
Well,
and I
don't know how to say this or articulate this. I mean, other than the fact that like 2 things can be true at the same time, right? And
absolutely.
regardless of how you reflect or feel about the situation, you're not going to be able to change the past. You can't time travel, right? So you could sit there and be like, oh, I should have left sooner. That's just a That's just a thought, one. And it's a thought that's coming from a place of grieving and pain and suffering, which is normal. It doesn't mean anything, it's like, it's not like some sort of genie or God or whatever is going to come down and be like, oh, you wished you would have broke up a long time ago. And you actually, just so you know, your wish actually happened before you have your kids. So we're going to take them away. And, or I guess that doesn't mean you love, like that's just not how it works. Right.
Yeah.
The way I would look at it is to try to, again, let those feelings show up, feelings come, feelings go. Right. How do we process those feelings? Do we allow them to process? Do we allow them to show up, recognize them and allow them to go? Or do feelings show up and do we sit with them and hold on to them and keep those feelings and not process them and move on and hold on to that anger and things like that. And that make us feel stuck and keep us ruminating over a situation because our egos won't let it go, like the ego thought of, you let him do this to you. This is you stayed in too long. And why did you do that? And you're a fool and yada, yada, yada. What I would love for you to get to a place when you think about your past relationship is simply this: I have my kids, and however, like, as I'm guessing it's safe to say that whatever cost it would, again, using like God or some angel came down and said, this is the cost of keeping your kids. And that is the pain you've dealt with. You would be like, great, sold,
Yeah.
Right. So
Absolutely.
That's kind of how you have to look at that, and everything else is just, I don't know, like I feel like an ego-driven thought, or you ruminating or like second guessing yourself and maybe an effort to hurt and feel. And I think it's also, you said something about like trying to find your person already, like is almost like, I imagine it was, once he told you he loved someone else, like I imagine there was a period of time where you sounded like you really tried to go out there and start dating pretty quickly.
I think so I'm in therapy, and I was since the day I found out about all of this. And one thing that we've identified is that I pretty much tried to manage my healing. Like the second I found out this had happened, I think in my mind, I thought, this isn't going to tear me down. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be better. So I understood, broadly speaking, like the phases of healing from a scenario like this. Like you got to date a little bit, you got to blah, blah, blah. And I thought, okay, I'm going to find that person. And I did have this sort of, I'll show him mentality.
Sure.
that happened, thinking I'm smart. I can get along with people. I can find someone. So I'm going to do it now. And so, yeah, I kind of hit the ground running.
Yeah.
And for better or worse, I think a part of it too was I was so miserable for so many years that it didn't take me very long to mourn the end of the relationship. The trauma of how it ended was awful, but the fact that that relationship ended when, like I acknowledged in the beginning, I kind of wanted it to end for a while. I think I was already in that mourning phase for a very long time. So by the time it ended, it didn't take long for me to go, boop, what's next? Again, maybe not the best choice, but
yeah, but part of it sounds like you weren't dating to find your person. You were dating to get your revenge.
A little bit. I think I had to prove to myself it wasn't me, that I didn't deserve to have that happen to me. And so I think I had to prove to myself I could get someone, I could meet someone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get what you're saying, but like, I think real healing and real growth is not needing to prove to yourself.
Yeah.
It's just knowing that you didn't, it's like forgiving yourself. It's just like, it doesn't do you any good, like I said, to be like, oh, I should have broken up with you earlier, the only like productive thought is the recognition of like, yeah, I probably should have ended it earlier, but I didn't. And so what? I am a person, whether in my romantic relationships, friend relationships, my professional relationships, I always hold on to a relationship longer than I should. Always. It's a flaw. It's so much that it is a flaw. But the silver lining there is I don't have regrets.
Yeah.
When it comes to relationships, I have finally left or stayed in so much longer that they left me, even when I knew it was not great, is that I like it. I don't have regrets. I don't look back and wonder if I was too hasty. I don't come back. In fact, I know this because when the relationship ends, regardless of again, whatever the contents is, this like I'm always like, and I know this why it's a problem for me because my life is usually better when that relationship ends. That it's just like, oh God, man. But I'm always afraid of what I am giving up in the relationship I'm holding on to, and I want to fight for it and things like that. So you just have to get to a place where you just be like, yeah, I mean, I stayed there too long, but now that's over with. And now I just need to move on, as opposed to like needing to prove to yourself. If your ex-husband, it really is a narcissist or any has like you're never going to get the satisfaction of hurting him or trying to make him regret it because of how he is. So like you're just wasting your energy trying to, he won't give you the satisfaction.
Yeah.
Even if he wanted to,
Yeah, that's true.
You just got to be thankful you're not in it anymore. And, you are still young. You have a lot going for you. You look great. You have kids, your desire for children, you're open. You're not even like, hey, I already have 2 kids. I'm done. Because if that were the case, that could complicate you finding your person. Cause maybe you meet someone who still does, and you're like, I'm done, like you're just open, which is like the best place to be, where it's just like, all you're looking for is a certain type of person, how they treat you.
Right.
Really. And you're open to not having kids. You're open to having kids. You're open to kind of anything. You just want someone who in a lot of ways is the opposite of your your husband. And that's basically because he treated you so poorly. You're just looking for someone who treats you generally with respect.
The high bar.
Yeah. And now your biggest challenge is kind of being patient.
Yeah. I think what you're talking about in terms of that probably hanging on too long, I think obviously that's something I did in my marriage. I found as I was dating following the marriage ending, I found that I was repeating that behavior a lot, where I continually wanted to give someone the benefit of the doubt and give them that second chance. And it took a while to realize that the same behavior, the same mentality that had kept me in that marriage was starting to keep me in some of these. I mean, I've been through the situationship. I've been through all those different scenarios, and I realized I was doing that same thing where if I didn't like how something was happening toward me, I thought, well, they have this going on in their life. I'm going to give them this benefit of the doubt. And I would find myself in that same trap. And it was only really recently that I finally broke that cycle. And now I'm not talking to anybody. I mean, this is the first time, and probably since the separation happened, that I haven't had an active pursuit of any person or any one person I want to date. And I think something has flipped in me where I used to be on that manic hunt for who is that person. I was on the dating apps. I was, talking to anyone that would give me attention, shamefully admitting that. And now that I've come out on the other end and I've looked at everything and my behaviors with my dating, I looked at the behaviors that even led me to that marriage with that man. Now I feel like I've seen too much. Now I don't want to go on the dating apps. I get hesitant when anyone is clocking me at the gym or wanting to talk to me, just thinking, I don't want another scenario. I don't want another scenario where I have to try to read this person, where I have to try to figure out, can something happen, where I don't want to, what's the end game? It's like, it's too much. It's overstimulating. And so now I'm just kind of wondering when will that change, where I'm willing to feel that hurt again, or even know how to act when that situation presents itself. So it's overwhelmingly paralyzing, I think.
Yeah, I don't know the answer of when, but from what you're describing, this kind of sounds pretty positive. And I feel like, well, yeah, I mean, it sounds like progress to me. It sounds like even before recently, since you've been an adult person, you've it sounds like attracting men's been relatively easy for you, and you've always had some kind of love interest, healthy or not, in your life.
That's fair.
Yeah. So here you are for the first time as an adult woman, almost, that you are somewhat comfortable being a single person. And that's new and foreign, you know?
Yeah.
But I think also healthy, you know? The two extremes in terms of like people, in terms of like there's the people pleasers, and then there's the people who are like really good at setting boundaries and sometimes are, come across as difficult. The reason why people can set boundaries who can give off the perception that they're difficult is because like they really like who they are and they are comfortable with who they are, so much so that like they're comfortable with some people not liking them,
Yeah.
and they don't need strangers to like them because they generally like themselves enough, right? And I feel like right now, maybe for the first time in your life, you're kind of entering that season of like kind of just being enough for yourself and like going to the gym and taking care of yourself and almost like finding a man giving you attention in the wrong setting, like at a gym, you just find to be obnoxious or annoying, and maybe that's because you don't need it as much. It's like before, it wasn't the men you were looking for, it was the validation. It
Yeah.
was the attention. It was feeling enough. It was needing someone to give you some kind of time because if you didn't get it, that made you feel less than.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if maybe, again, I think you're still healing, but not needing that for whatever reason means that you don't need it. And not needing it is a good thing because I think in the past, you were dating not for yourself. You were dating to fill a void. To feel enough, to get revenge, to remind yourself that you still got it or you still could,
Yeah.
and things like that. And now you're just like, as an almost 40-year-old woman who already has kids, who, has a lot going for her, who can still attract a lot of men, you have the benefit of being patient and taking your time. And if you want to date because it's just like, I kind of feel like getting laid, you can do that if you want,
Yeah.
and and if you don't find your person till you're 45, in the next 5 years, you can have fun with your girls. You can be independent and adventurous. You can focus on being the best mom possible. But because when that person shows up in your life at like, say, at 45, again, what you're looking for for a romantic companionship is very different than what you were looking for when you were 20. You probably didn't even know what you're looking for. You were kind of just looking for someone who thought you were hot and made you feel good about yourself, that your friends got jealous of who you were dating, and then someone who also wanted to have, and then you wanted to have kids with them. And you did get all, you probably got all of that, right? But you realize that maybe that's not what you should have been looking for. It's not what you really wanted. You wanted someone who was kind and considerate and made you feel like a priority, who could take a note or feedback, who acknowledged their own faults. You could, and so now you have the benefit of just focusing on that because quite honestly, some people don't have the benefit of that. They have to worry about, do they still want to have kids? Do they want to get married?
Yeah.
Or, and you don't have to worry about that. So you have a shit ton going for you, and you really truly can be selfish, and patient, and in the meantime, have a ton of fun as an independent person. And for the first time in your adult life, embrace the fact that you answer to no one other than your children.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with all of that. I also feel that I agree with the idea that this is the first time I'm truly feeling single and okay with it. I think the thing that worries me is, well, I can go into something new knowing I don't have to worry about whether or not I have kids because I have my kids. I have the reference of a marriage prior. I know what that's like, right? I have some of these life examples that I can carry into something. What I don't have an example of, and what worries me, and I don't even know what an answer to this would be, is because I didn't have anywhere near a healthy relationship with my ex-husband, and because all of the situations, dating scenarios I've been in, at surface level, maybe they were healthy, but at the end, I never really had a healthy mini relationship either. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. And that feels like such a blanket arbitrary statement, but I don't know what that feels like. I don't know what that emotional intimacy with someone who truly won't screw you over feels like. I don't know what trusting someone without having a guarantee feels like. Those are feelings that I don't have. That's a reference I don't have. And I think that's where I get really nervous is the second, and probably why it's good I'm not talking to anybody, but the second I have any kind of interest, I automatically go to a place of it's going to go away. I'm going to lose it. And I feel that's happened to me in my past dating experiences where the second I really felt for someone, I no longer had that feeling of excitement you're supposed to have at the start of something. No matter what happens, I had that initial feeling of dread, and dread turned into acting crazy, right? Or, getting paranoid. And so, yes, part of the beauty of not answering to anyone right now is that I get to live my best single self. But it's also, I think, protecting me from that vulnerability that comes from meeting someone I might really like. And I don't know what to do. Like, there was literally a situation a couple of weeks ago where I met someone, got really excited. We later found out that that guy was married, and they were the girlfriends that found out. They're, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I know we thought maybe this was someone that you would talk to or whatever. We met with our kids." And the second I found out that he was married, I was relieved because I thought, good, that's one less like thing to have on my mind of an interest, or I don't have to worry about running into this person and then something starting. I was so relieved that I couldn't pursue this interest because they were married. And that was very telling to me of, I don't find excitement in this idea of dating. I'm scared of it. I'm scared of just how I act when I might be interested in somebody.
I'm kind of hearing progress,
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say a couple things. I would say, one, I think your feelings are very normal and valid, and they make a lot of sense. And your biggest fear around, like, well, how do I know if this is right or whatever? And my answer to that is, the better you get at loving yourself, and the better you get at really, this might be the first time that you are comfortable being single, but I still think you're a work in progress when it comes to being single. Are your friends like actively trying to introduce you to someone?
I would say they are always thinking of, here's this guy. They don't actually go through with it, but in their brain, they want me to meet someone, and they're trying to think of who they
Is
can
that
introduce
based
me
off
to.
of you at times talking about how you wish you could or want to, or expressing frustration with being single? Or are they just...
I think they've heard me express frustration with the dating scenarios I've been in. And so I'm sure that implies I have an active interest in dating, and I just need to find the right guy.
Yeah.
But they also know that I recently got off the dating apps. I didn't want that anymore. So they know I'm not in that same manic hunt that I had mentioned earlier.
Yeah. I would just kind of have them stop doing that. Again,
Yeah.
like, I still think, well, you've made a lot of progress. Maybe you still have more progress to make.
Yeah.
And the uncertainty of not knowing if you will be able to tell what is healthy or unhealthy, to me, is just a sign of you are still getting comfortable with being enough on your own, of not feeling like you need a man to complete you, in a sense that, like, makes a ton of sense that, like, okay, here you are, you're about to turn 40, you're thinking about the second chapter of your life, and you hope that a big chunk of that second chapter of your life has someone that you can share a lot of cool experiences with, and have that be person of the opposite sex that you're romantically attracted to, and you have some good sex along the way, type of thing, and you share stories, right?
Yeah.
And that's normal. But like that, I know maybe your first chapter went pretty fast or whatever. Life certainly goes by fast, but like, that second chapter has has at least, 40 some years plus in it. Right. And so you take your time there is literally nothing right now that is telling you need to hurry up. Again, my last caller, we didn't have, as we were talking and kind of trying to figure out her problem or whatever, and not that she like had a problem. Well, I mean, her problem was she she wants to have a kid with a man, and she wants to find her companionship, and the wanting a child in the relatively near future. There were things outside of her control, given like biology and science, that like,
Yeah.
and there were certain things she was hoping to avoid having to do. You know, she's from, you know, things like that. But you don't have any of those problems.
I don't.
So
I don't. I think I am still also wrapping my head around the idea that it is okay that I'm turning 40 and have this sort of open path ahead of me. I think it freaks me out, to be honest, the turning 40. I have to actively remind myself of the positives that you just mentioned, because as of right now, it feels I'm turning 40. I thought I was going to have a third child with my ex-husband, and we lost that child. So I thought I still wanted at some point to have another child. Like we mentioned at the top of this, it's not a requirement, but I wanted it to be an option in my life.
Mhm.
And I feel like as time goes by, and yes, I know there's no rush or urgency, but something like that does weigh on me.
Yeah.
Of like, is that option? I'm so open to it now because I can be, right? I have the luxury of saying like, sure, yes or no. But at a certain point, I won't be. And then there's also just the idea that I spent 40 years of my life struggling through these various things that built me into the person I was that chose this man. And then I went through those lessons, and now I'm here. And yes, I suppose that's great. But it's just daunting to me that I'm, in a way, I am starting over with some things, some very fundamental things in terms of like the human experience of meeting someone and having that relationship that lasts. That to me is incredibly daunting. And I haven't been able to see the bright side of it the way that you were able to just paint it.
Yeah, that's the part you might have to work on. I mean, listen, acknowledging that while you are generally open, knowing that if you had it your way, you would like to have another child. You know, if you if right now if you could write your story, it sounds like a third child would be a part of that story. But, you know, you are a mom, you know,
Yeah.
and not having children and having one child is hugely different, you know, than you know, and I say that as someone who, you know, Natalie and I have tried to grow our family unsuccessfully recently, and that's been very painful, but like we are so thankful that we have our daughter, and so thankful compared to the many families and people out there who have experienced what we've experienced recently, but don't have the blessing of knowing that they are capable and able to give birth to a healthy child. And we feel very grateful about that. And so it's not exactly what we want to be dealing with right now, but we can see that. And similar to you, you have the benefit of that. And while it's not perfect and it's not the way you would necessarily write your story, there are a lot of good things there that you're just going to have to challenge yourself to focus on. It is normal to turn 40 and freak out. You know, I knew I kind of felt weird about it, but kind of like I was like, you are in a unique position as a woman who's about to turn 40 to kind of act like a man who's about to turn 40, which a lot of women who are, you know, and who are single, who want to have children, who haven't had the benefit of having children, aren't in a position to act like that. They don't, you know, they don't get to, you know, 40-year-old men who still want to have children, who've never had children, can fuck around and find out and date a 23-year-old who like may be like, it might be the dumbest thing they've ever done because like, you know, there's a lot of, you know, and it can blow up in their face, and they can then be 42 and nothing's really changed for them. You know, they're still capable of having children if they ever meet the right person. They're a couple years older, and, you know, hopefully they have the same amount of hair as they did 2 years ago, you know? And you have that, you know, you don't have to worry about your hair like 40-year-old men have to worry, you know? So again, it's a lot of it is how you choose to look at this situation. And we all have self-limiting beliefs. We all have fears and things that pop in our head. But I think you just have to remind yourself of the progress you've made, and you got to give yourself grace, and you have to jokingly have some fun and just be like, I get to act like 40-year-old men get to act when they turn 40 and still maybe want to have and are open to having more kids. and I can, fuck around and find out. And again, I think there's a difference between, yeah, you made some bad decisions dating when you're younger, but your bad decisions were based off of thinking you needed a man and you needed the validation, and then you wanted to have kids, and then you got stuck in this very toxic relationship. And I'm not saying you should go like fuck some 28-year-old guy. I'm just saying that if all you wanted to do was go on vacation with your friends and just have fun and throw caution to the wind, and you happen to meet, and you decided, what, I haven't been laid in a while, and I'm going to do that with a 28-year-old man, short of just making sure you have protected sex, you can do that guilt-free and risk-free and just have some fucking fun in ways that like other people in your position don't feel like they have the luxury of doing. And if you waste 6 to 12 months with a guy you probably, realize you had no business doing that with, you don't have to beat yourself up or be like, I shouldn't have done that. Like, you didn't really waste much time. It could just, you have the benefit right now of kind of doing things for the plot.
That sounds dangerous, but yeah.
I'm not saying you should necessarily do that, but like embrace the fact that you have the ability to do that. And I think going back to like your greatest fears of knowing what is healthy and not knowing and feeling triggered when you meet a guy you like, to me, that is a sign that you're honestly just not ready to date. To me, that is your body telling you that you still have some self-love to give. You still have, and you say, well, how will I know? The better you are at knowing what you deserve and giving yourself those things you deserve. And most of that is grace and just like how you see yourself and how you talk about yourself to yourself, and how you talk about yourself to your friends. The better you are, the kinder you are to yourself, and the more respect you give yourself, and the more the way you prioritize yourself in a way that isn't necessarily narcissistic or self-centered, and you can still, you can be a single woman, right? And you can prioritize yourself. And again, you're still a mom of two, so you have, there's a couple people who really need you to be there for them, right? And and if you have any free time, you can give back to your community. You can volunteer, and you can do things to hold yourself accountable so that you're not just like become some self-centered, egotistical person who's like trying to make up for lost time because she gave so much to this narcissistic man who didn't deserve that. You know what I'm saying? That you can do things to check yourself while still getting better at loving yourself. And the better you get at that, when you meet a guy who doesn't match the way you've been treating yourself the past 6, 12, 2 months, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, that will be a signal to you that like they're not your guy. But right now, you're still not totally comfortable with giving yourself that grace, with treating yourself with love and respect and kindness and things like that, that you don't know how to hold men accountable who also don't do that.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of reprogramming that goes into this, that I think I've gotten to the point, I've identified how I programmed myself into these situations where I was so forgiving and I let those things happen. And that programming took place over decades, right? Like clearly there was programming that happened when I was a kid that led me into growing into a young woman who met this person and thought that this kind of treatment was okay. And then you reinforce that year over year. So it's knowing I need to love myself and knowing I deserve a certain amount of respect is one thing. It's the action of like reprogramming myself to when that happens, not thinking, not having that, wanting that voice that tells me that's not okay to be louder than the instinct to allow that to happen. Because my instincts are, give him a break, something bad, he had a bad day, he has a stressful job. Maybe there's something I can do to make this person want to talk to me again. Maybe there's something I can do to make their day better. And that is a programming that I had.
Totally. Yeah. So you still have some work you've made progress. You have more progress to make, right?
Yeah.
And just to address that very specific thought that you had is that there will always be something that causes people to need to think of themselves over other people. There is always something that will cause people to feel stressed or not themselves, right? And so that's just not a valid excuse. Like we all need grace to give our partners, But if early in a dating situation, you start noticing a man showing certain behaviors or patterns that your ex did, and like all you can come up with are excuses for him, like, sure, I guess, but like, again, it's having those things show up early on and still be like, wow, this guy's pretty stressed out at work, and but he still goes out of his way for me.
Yeah.
And it's knowing it's knowing to look for that, because again, like, that is just an early sign that when things get difficult, as I'm sure you've realized in your past relationship, they're gonna think of themselves first, and they're gonna use their feeling victimized by a situation, be it their job, be it their friends, whatever, as a justification to not show up in the relationship. Right. And that's why that's that thing you need to work on, because they always have excuses, and you want to be in a position where every once in a while you can forgive someone's selfishness because they really did go through it and they really did have a bad day, as opposed to any little thing that fucks them up or that causes them stress, anxiety, doesn't completely cannibalize their ability to take care of anyone else but themselves in that moment.
Yeah.
And that was your ex-husband. I'm hearing you've made a lot of progress. You have a lot of things to be proud of. You're not done healing yet. You still have some things to do. And in the meantime, I would really encourage you to embrace the single life. I would really encourage you to do things as an independent woman and go out of your way. It's not just sitting around and being comfortable with being alone. It's taking advantage of the fact that you are single and doing things that only a single woman can do, and enjoy doing those things, and just leave the doors and windows open to the rooms that you want to fill, and be open to meeting someone if someone shows up. But like, for the most part, meeting someone is not on your radar. And then staying patient. And maybe some time will go by and you can feel like pretty good, and maybe you can be more intentional with dating. But right now, I think it's telling the friends that you're not looking to get set up.
Yeah.
You're not looking to be forced, force someone on you. You're just generally open, but right now embracing being this independent woman and really seeing the value in that, because I think that's where you haven't gotten that far. You're kind of okay with it, but you haven't embraced it.
Yeah. I think I'm trying to act the part right now. I'm trying to enjoy the self-care Fridays when I don't have my kids. I do try to take advantage of the freedom and travel, because I didn't travel a lot in my marriage. So I do a lot of solo travel.
That's awesome.
To get out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'm going through those motions, and I think I'm hoping that at some point those motions don't feel like motions. They feel like things that are truly organically like enriching my life.
I think you need to go be a fuckboy for a while. Kind of. I'm kind of kidding.
I don't know. I feel like I did casually date a little bit here and there, and I still felt like there was some kind of, I don't know, maybe I met the wrong boys, but there's a little more drama than I even wanted. And so at this point, I think I know that you see that for me, but I don't even know that I'm interested in that at the moment.
I'm kind of kidding. It's just more like we are all drawn to drama more than we all want to admit. We all like it. It's entertaining. It keeps us stimulated. So, I think you'll probably always have to maybe recognize that about yourself. But I want to see you really embrace your independence, and you haven't fully embraced it yet. You're trying to convince yourself to enjoy the independence. And yeah, you have to fake it till you make it. But
yeah,
you're just not there yet, and just recognizing you're not there yet, because you're making the, I think, common mistake that often people make is this, like, you have a lot of reason to be very proud of yourself in terms of how you've dealt with this divorce, but you're still not there yet. And you've made so much progress that you're probably like, well, I should be ready. I've done all this shit, but like that, you're talking about 20 years that you talked about reprogramming, Rome wasn't built in a day. What's the saying? I don't know. And well, even though it feels like, I've been working myself for a couple of years, well, it's 20 years of reprogramming. So it does take a little bit of time.
Yeah, I think I got tuckered out with the healing retreats too. I went through all like
Sure.
I did the retreat to Bali. I did the ayahuasca. I did all the things. I did the therapy. I learned about all this stuff. And I think there was a certain point where when I looked at even booking my next trip, I was like, keep me away from any of these spiritual awakening things.
Yeah.
Not to poo-poo them, but I thought, okay, I've done it. I can't keep just being a student of like healing and rebirth. Like at some point I just need to live my life.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think you need to live your life with a couple just guardrails to keep yourself in check.
Yeah.
You don't, I know 40's fucking you up a little bit, but you don't look 40. You got that going for you, and so like, listen, at this stage in your life, you are as old as you kind of want to be and act. I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of people who are your age, who look every bit their age and then some.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so like, are you the same age as them? I don't know.
Yeah. I
Um,
think I try to hold on to like, we talked about the regret feeling. I try to look at the silver lining is I know there are people that live into their 80s and they stay in these miserable situations, or they never got the chance to go, what the fuck was I doing in that relationship? And um so I try to hang on to that idea of, listen, I had a hard lesson to learn about
yeah.
who I pick and how I treat myself. And perhaps I am lucky, even though I'm turning 40, that I feel like I've learned that lesson now
Well, I mean,
as
I would say
opposed to later.
not perhaps, and I don't think definitely, and I think you need to try to stop hanging on to that. I think you need to embrace that because it's true. Like, I'm someone who very much believes, you've probably maybe heard. I don't think everything happens for a reason. I think for the most part, like, life is just dumb luck, and our choices matter. Our choices matter, and that is a scary, scary, scary thing to acknowledge or even believe in, because like that gives us so much control over our very short and insignificant life in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
and you are taking control. And you're right, like you have this opportunity, because you're right, most people don't. Like, all the people out there who are, and that's most of them, who are all like, well, everything happens for a reason, are afraid to take ownership of their life, and they are waiting for God or fate or the stars or whatever the fuck they believe in to like save them from whatever like purgatory they are accepting about their life. I could be wrong, it's just my opinion, but I'm of the opinion those people will live to regret it. And what do they always say? What do people like when they're old and whatever? They always say, I wish I took more chances. I wish I took more risks. I wish I wish, like, you are, you were saved by this divorce. You are taking control of your life, which is hopefully, knock on wood, only half over. And most people, especially people who take care of themselves, who have the benefit of having privileges, who in your case have children and don't have to worry about the fear of like, not having children. The reality is some people who desperately want to have children aren't lucky enough to be able to have children. And some of that is outside of their control, biology, and some of it is they made poor choices.
Yeah.
And we don't like to realize that we've made poor choices, because like, it doesn't do us any good, like sulking over a mistake we made. We have to pick ourselves up and move on. But sometimes we don't get second chances. And those are very hard mistakes to overcome. And you have the benefit of not really worrying about not having a second chance, the things that you want most in your life.
Yeah.
So I would really try to embrace that and really focus on the positives, because I'm hearing a ton of positives, and it's normal to let those negative thoughts come in, but like, you have to just get better at changing the narratives in your head and really embrace this next chapter of your life, because it could be really awesome. It really could. And you're going to look back like truly happy, not trying to convince yourself you're happy. Because right now you're in that kind of, it's, someone told me, like right now I have a lot of exciting things happening in my life. And it doesn't personally feel like that for me, but I'm going through sometimes like growth causes pain,
Yeah.
getting out, trying new things, stretching, not accepting what you have. Those are awkward and difficult moments. So you're going through some growing pains. And so everything that you're feeling is more growing pains more than something's wrong.
Yeah.
So you got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. I think I need some more space between the drastic things that happened and what is to come. I think right now my biggest bucket of memories is all the bad stuff, right? And it's all the the fuck ups and the bad choices on my part. And so in my mind, when I think about all these things, they're lessons, which are positive, but they're lessons. And in those moments, they were not awesome things. And I think over time, I mean, I would say even over the last couple of years since the divorce happened or since the separation happened, I look back at the me I was coming out of it and how raw and how desperate I was for, name the kind of attention I needed, or how dramatic everything was, how I would cry at, the drop of a hat. And I see the progress there. I think I was thinking by now there would be other progresses. That's a word. And there haven't been. And so because I am that, like you were talking about, I have that need to, okay, I'm doing the things. Where's the progress? I'm a high performer and other things. Why am I not seeing it in my own life?
Yeah.
But reframing it to go, no, this is progress is,
we never see it in real time. We never see it in the present.
Yeah.
But if you stay on this path, if you give yourself this grace and if you keep pushing forward, not only this period in your life and specifically your marriage, you'll look back and it'll be a funny story in a way. It'll be more, it will,
Yeah.
Again, when it comes to my past relationships, many of which cause trauma, not because they were bad people, but if I don't really think about them ever, but when I do, I just kind of laugh, and I certainly don't have regrets because I'm very happy with where I'm at, and everything led me to this moment. And I do believe that, I do believe in the butterfly effect. I do believe that our choices matter, and we make choices, and those choices have consequences, and sometimes those consequences are good, and those and we might not realize the consequences of our choices till years later and not even realize what those choices were that we did make that actually led to the thing that we are enjoying now. And that's why it's always important to be mindful of our choices, especially as we get older, to make those healthy choices and to compound those healthy choices, because those can tend to lead to better things. You've heard me say shavings make a pile. That that when it's our choices. It's not just the outcomes, it's the choices we make, and we have to make small, consistent, positive choices to have consistent, positive things in our life. And you are used to making kind of consistently bad choices and used to consistently deal with a negative thing. But once you get out of it and you look back, again, it's hard to see in the present,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
You'll know when you're fully healed, when you look back and really have, you feel generally indifferent about your ex-husband, other than the fact that you're just glad you have the children that you have. And knowing that, as crazy as it was to have them be a part of your life, which is almost shocking, that you do have your children.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're great.
Okay. All right. Well, just keep doing what you're doing, I think more than anything, you need some grace. You need to give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Enjoy your birthday.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
You're crazy.
Bye.
Hey guys, if you loved what you listened to, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.